You're now listening to the Something Good Podcast Network. Please press any key to continue.
Oh, God damn it. God damn it. Fucking production.
That's what happens when you got someone around to help. I just said it.
Jesus
up for
Christ.
you. There you go.
Is there a card in there?
Yes, it would be recording otherwise.
That's our checklist every time we do one.
Just making sure there's a cartridge in there. Fuck, we forgot a memory. We were just talking to air. All right, Cap, whenever.
All right. What's up, everybody, and welcome to our
God damn it.
our new podcast. God damn it!
Do it again.
I'll do it again. Yeah. What's up, everybody? Welcome to our as of yet to be titled Cryptid podcast with my co-host Chris Morrison.
You know who I am.
Yeah, y'all know who he is, and we got a special guest with us this week. One Mikey Black.
That is me.
Yes. And last week we talked about Bigfoots and Sasquatches and just...
Is there a difference between a Bigfoot and a Sasquatch?
Oh, you'll have to listen to that whole episode, my friend.
Man.
Dude, it's so elaborate. Oh, my God.
We kind of went into...
We invited you.
We kind of went into just ape humanoids just in general on that last one, too. It was a lot of fun.
Bipedal furry men.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Sasquatch, the Bigfoots, that is the proper name for multiple big feet.
Exactly.
Bigfoots.
But yeah, were there any cryptids that you studied or read up, growing up or anything like that?
Did I read anything? No. Did I watch History Channel bullshit? Yes.
That's kind of where the bulk of all
And this
my...
is how the Sasquatch and the fucking pelicans helped make the pyramids.
Right. That's how it always usually devolves as well.
God, people can't make shit out of rocks. It must have been aliens.
Yeah.
Fuck. That's how it is, man. That's the downside of the History Channel. It's all turned into fucking aliens did this, aliens did that.
It's like this, because of recorded history, you include all the insanity that is, alien lore and shit like that too. I guess
it's just like people use fucking big rocks and little rocks.
I like to believe the dinosaurs did it. I think dinosaurs were
and that's why he
smart.
really got rid of them.
Yeah.
They kept putting up these triangles every fucking where. He got tired of looking at them.
They were getting, smarter for their own good. Yep. They were too smart for their own good.
Too clever. Mm-hmm. Got to be gone.
Yeah.
He kept telling them, man, get rid of them fucking feathers or you're going to get got.
T-Rex is like, I can't lift anything with these tiny little arms.
That's what you think, man. You think they have time.
They didn't need their arms because they were so fucking advanced. It's a big ass brain. They were picking shit up with their minds.
But Cap, you're missing the point.
I want to see that movie now. Fucking telekinetic dinosaurs.
Everyone knows dinosaur bones were put here to confuse the Christian mind.
That's what I've heard too.
Yes,
devised by Satan himself.
Yes, to confuse the Christians. Now the Muslims, however, a little bit harder to confuse. You need a whole shit ton of Mongolians coming down from the mountains.
See, what I heard was I watched that documentary, 1 million BC with Raquel Welch.
Yep. Yeah, that's
they lived together.
Yep, they lived together. Jesus Christ came into Nazareth riding on a raptor.
Yep. Again,
I'm not talking about that stupid tricycle either. Tricycle. So this time with Mikey, we will be discussing the Loch Ness Monster.
Yeah, that's probably the second most famous cryptid outside of
Nessie.
Bigfoots. Yeah, and it's kind of like what we talked about last week with Bigfoots and how there's a zillion other humanoid offshoots of it. There's a lot of aquatic plesiosaurs, if you will.
Yeah,
plesiosaurs.
That's what Nessie is.
Yeah, and Ogopogo.
A little bit.
Another offshoot of that type of creature.
Alex has given me butterfly hands from the stairwell. I'm not sure what that's all about.
These are not butterfly hands. Come on.
That's a Loch Ness Monster.
Yeah, he's doing the Wu-Tang version of Loch Ness.
Oh. It's middle fingers in the middle.
But we will discuss on Loch Ness. However, there has been an update in the storied history of conspiracies. Me and Alex spoke about it earlier, but I'll go ahead and get everybody up to snuff. The birds aren't real conspiracy.
What?
There has been an update. The young man who came up with the birds aren't real conspiracy came forward, and he's also the leader of the birds aren't real. You'll see his van going up and down the road.
And for those that aren't, familiar with this conspiracy, please elaborate.
So, early last year, a conspiracy was formed of birds aren't real. Now, conspiracies, I don't know how you guys feel, sound like bullshit to me. I love them. It's fan fiction history.
It's fun.
It is. Abraham Lincoln killed vampires. Benjamin Franklin's part of the reptilians. Mm-hmm. A lot of different ones. Iron Maidens are secretly Atlanteans.
Yeah.
To try to teach history through heavy metal. It's all out there.
But again, like
bullshit.
you said, it's fan fiction.
It is fan fiction. Now, there are conspiracies that are real that we know of, such as the MK Ultra conspiracy is a real conspiracy.
Yeah.
Except it's half a conspiracy because the other half is, they make telekinetic super soldiers who can go through walls and read your fucking mind. And one may be Charles Manson. Like, no, that's not true. Right. It is true, though. They gave copious amounts of drugs to soldiers and agents who were held up in a whorehouse in San Francisco and threw themselves out of a goddamn window.
Yeah, and they made this publicly known, so it is that is a real conspiracy that was brought forth.
Yes, but Mr. Peter McIndoe, a 23-year-old, had came up with the conspiracy during the Stop the Steal protests. During the protests late last year, he was trying to get from one point to the other,
just in
town,
yeah,
like Pittsburgh, and he could not get through without going past these QAnon assholes. So he picks up a pizza box, writes "birds aren't real" and plasts it on a fucking window, so he can look as loony as those fuckers. But he ran with it, which is, I think, great. I
was gonna say he didn't, believe in this bullshit or anything like that. He just made it up and just, like you said, ran with it.
But think about the lunacy of just those three words: birds aren't real. Like we've all seen birds. Some of us, we've held birds. We've eaten birds. But just think about how maniacal that conspiracy can be,
and how we're in an age where, anything can be flipped if you see it on the internet, or it can be perceived to be real because you see it in a fucking article on the internet.
Now, the great thing about birds aren't real. It's not on the pyramid of lunacy as like adrenochrome. You know what I'm talking about? The one where people, that one. Like, you drink blood of children.
Oh, yeah.
The special chemical that's in children's blood.
Like the Oregon energy and all that.
Yeah,
horseshit.
Or like it's right there with.
Don't ask me how I know that, but
it's right up there with. There's foreskin and lotion.
It's about spirit cooking.
Yeah. But
you know about that one?
No.
Oh, we'll talk about that on another episode.
Thank you, Alex. This conspiracy thing. We're gonna dive deep. So fucking deep.
That's the thing about go ahead with birds.
You've heard the birds aren't real conspiracy, right, Mikey?
Yeah.
What have you heard about it other than just the birds aren't real? Like is there any other aspects to it that you've heard of it? Like any expansion on it?
Not really, just the stupid shit I see on the internet.
Yeah, that's the great thing about the internet. It's all stupid shit.
Stupid shit.
But everything one click away.
But it's such a batshit, idea that I just hear shit like that and I just ignore it. Like the JFK conspiracy.
What are you talking about?
I'm talking about the idea that somebody says birds aren't real.
No, the JFK. What's the conspiracy about JFK?
I mean, just like everything around it, that it was, it was like CIA killed him, or all of the other fan fiction, if you will, that kind of like surrounded,
Everybody knows JFK was killed by ghosts.
Ghosts.
There you go. Shit like that is just fun.
Yeah, I don't know why would you bring up a stupid fact like that? Everyone knows ghosts came out of nowhere and killed that motherfucker.
But like the idea of birds not being real is just like such a ludicrous idea that's just hard for me to even ponder any like additional information about that kind of thing.
So they built the birds conspiracy on the fact of a real conspiracy such as how do you best say this? Mass observation from the government. So we know the government watches us to an extent. We know they can listen to our phone calls. They can watch us from CCTV TV cameras. They record us. And we freely give the information over because we're on social media and everything like that.
Yeah.
But what if it was birds instead of just cameras and shit you could see? What if it was birds? And that was the best thing about it was everything. Those things. Every time you see a bird, it's watching you.
And they shit on your cars just to fuck with
which
you.
is just exhausted fuel, man. Now, when I found out he came forward with it with the New York Times, it was fascinating to read about. Just a man creating a conspiracy that can go that far. And if you just picture it for your mind, kind of like a tent preacher, who could take his little preaching on the road and just scare enough people into joining his little tent preachings and go to the next town.
With rattlesnakes and everything else. And
the Pentecostals with their snakes.
Yeah.
The Baptists with their kids. The Catholics with other people's kids. Well, that's another podcast, religion podcast. You could talk to two people who almost went to Liberty University.
Oh shit!
Yeah, really. But the idea of something as crazy as birds aren't real as the Nessie story, the Loch Ness Monster story.
So this is another story like that. A man took a story of a fable and ran with it, and he did it out of spite. Which is
I don't know the story.
Okay, all right. The story is so multiple stories from like the 1800s about Loch Ness Lake, which is a loch is just a small lake in Scotland.
Yeah.
Now, people had said, "Hey, there are some weird creatures in the area." They couldn't explain it. So this goes back to what we spoke about on the first episode with Bigfoot.
Right.
Hey, what's that in the woods? I can't quite make it out. So your fear creates the imagery in your mind. And that's what people did. They're like, oh no, there's a giant, let's say dinosaur or a giant creature in the
lake.
And you got to think about it. In the world of the mid to late 1800s, archaeology was kicking off very quickly. Around the world, especially in the United States, we're finding more dinosaur bones. They're not being smashed to bits or used as tools, but we're actually finding these bones of giant creatures who roam the earth.
Yep.
Okay. But it comes down to so we get multiple stories from the 1800s all the way back to the year 565, which is it sounds more like a fearful story of Romans when they invaded Scotland. So if we go to 1933, Aldy Mackay was a man who stated he had saw Nessie, as we know it, in Loch Ness, pull its head up out of the water and dive back down multiple times. Now, he had no photo at the time. So one day he's out there and he snags a photo. And it's the world famous photo of Loch Ness Monster, the shadowy thing in the lake. And
where it feels like it's almost morning time or something like that when you see that, or late evening or something like that.
Yeah. So
this is just all stuff that you know off the top of your head too, huh?
Yeah, a lot of it was. Now there was another man. There's another man named George Spicer who followed up on the story. And here's where conflicting stories kind of branch off. So people in the town totally believed that this was a real thing. However, George Spicer stated that, oh no, this is bullshit. And he said he was out to prove that it's bullshit. Now, it's easy to prove something exists. You just have to find it. It's harder to prove something doesn't exist. It's a lot fucking harder.
Because that leaves room for speculation and theory and, imagination.
Yeah. Like people say angels exist. I've never seen one, but it's hard for me to prove they don't fucking exist. I have to burn a couple towns before I realize angels don't exist. You know what I'm saying?
They call that faith.
Yeah. Well, I call it fire. So let's put you in a scenario here. Let's say, you're from a smaller town.
Yeah.
Outside of a bigger city. And let's say Mikey comes up to you, you've known him for years. He's like, "Hey man, I found a fucking monster." You have to have a lot of faith in your friend to
Especially
believe him and not make sure, and you try to make sure he doesn't have schizophrenia,
Right.
Paranoid schizophrenia.
Like, did you see? I would be like, did you see a monster, or did you see, just
Your dad.
Yeah.
Did you have an existential crisis while looking at a log?
So, all right, were you tripping on mushrooms? There's a lot of questions.
Yeah, you do. You do have a lot of questions, but this town totally believed it, and that's one of the weird things about European towns is their lineage goes back so far that it's like the stories we heard growing up, but theirs goes back hundreds and hundreds of years. There is a creature in the loch, and I think it goes back to what we were talking about in the Bigfoot episode, where a society, especially that is apart from a larger society, is able to create the fiction of a cryptid, because all these cryptids are based in small areas. Loch Ness isn't a big area. Flatwoods, West Virginia isn't a big area.
So people kind of like run with these stories. Would you argue out of boredom a lot of the time?
I think it's more of relevance to one another. We live in this small town, but we still somehow don't have a lot in common, except for our knowledge of this creature that one else knows. It's that weird connection,
Kind of brings a community together.
Yeah. So like there are let's talk about the four of us in here.
The guy at the inn is warning travelers.
Yeah.
Don't go in the woods at night.
Yeah, because he's a gatekeeper to what's out there. He's no more different than a preacher, really. He's telling you what the consequences are about going down this path. But like the four of us in here, me and you connect on certain things, but you and Alex connect on certain things. I have no idea what the fuck it is. I have no idea how to play a guitar, but me and you know the fucking mythos of the stupidity that is wrestling.
Yes.
Which is the truest conspiracy. It's real.
Yeah.
It's real.
Montreal Screwjob was a work.
It was all real. Vince McMahon has been telling us for years. It's all allegories for the reptilians and the Atlanteans. WWE is Atlantis.
Yes.
And I didn't even have to do coke for this. You know what I'm saying? Like, my imagination's that fast.
That's so. I imagine a lot of people's word that surround themselves with the lore of these creatures.
And a lot of the photography we get of the Loch Ness Monster is vague, much like Mikey had brought up before the podcast started. Aliens. Proof of aliens is ridiculous, but if we go to look at the photo of the Loch Ness Monster,
it's very, like you were saying, very vague. It's a lot of...
it's a goddamn log.
Yeah. Or some kind of like floating contraption or apparatus of some kind.
So, just to keep the lure alive on a little bit, I won't go into detail on how this happened, but it was one man's ability to spite another person of why we have this photo.
So yeah, tell that story.
So it was a nonsensical argument between two people of the town, and one said no, he doesn't fucking exist.
One guy just said no.
I've had enough of this shit.
Yeah, it's like
Everyone's full of shit.
It's like your buddy
There is no God. I mean, monster.
Yeah, just delve into an existential crisis while I keep saying God's not real because my dad's been gone since I was 2. It's that deep seated hate that comes out to scare the fuck out of everybody. But no, he got tired of this man talking about the Loch Ness Monster. Now it's 1933. World War II hasn't started. A brutal World War I had just finished about 10 years earlier, or 1, 2, 3.
Again, just offhand
12
knowledge.
years earlier. 12 years earlier, World War I, the Great War had just finished, and that was the war to end all wars.
Yeah.
But, tensions are getting a little high. There's this new group of guys bebopping down in Europe,
Just kind of
these National Socialist motherfuckers.
A goose step.
Yeah, the new dance craze in Germany was the goose step.
Yes.
Yes.
T-Pain's
99 rough balloons or some shit.
T-Pain's just singing the chorus.
Yeah. It's all recorded in the wall by Pink Floyd. Yeah. But anyway, they're goose stepping down there talking about right wing, left wing, and they're like, we're all wings, brother. All right, we got you, except for those fuckers over there.
I mean,
and
listeners, don't boo us, boo history.
yeah, boo white guys. That's all we are. We're still waiting to get some diversity in this fucking podcast. It's extremely fucking hard. But while this is going on, you know, and keep in mind, this is like the baby steps of Nazi Germany. But with this going on, this is fascinating the world right now because we need a distraction. Okay? Because, you know, World War I is a terrible act that happened. And so everyone needs distractions. You know, circuses are becoming a little bit more popular.
They need entertainment and things like
so
that.
During the Depression, you know, these dime circuses are bebopping down through the Midwest from coast to coast.
When was the World's Fair in Chicago?
No, the World's Fair was in 1989 or 1889.
Oh, 18. Okay, so way earlier.
Electricity and shit.
Right.
But you know, we're getting a lot of technological advances. You know, vehicles are being more seen, photography, recording. You know, just a lot of things that are precursors that we don't really think about now that are all on our goddamn phones.
Yeah. But again, yeah, this time period, you know, just lets the imagination run wild if they see something like, you know, just something floating in the water that they don't understand, you know.
But you got to remember, in the early 1900s and before this, monsters are real. People legitimately believe in monsters. They have no idea what a serial killer is. They're just like, oh no, Timmy went into the fucking woods and got got. Or, you know,
and that's kind of where the perceived werewolves kind of came from and all that stuff too, right?
Yeah, and like, and in Eastern Europe, witches are still a fucking thing. Like, they still have that weird, Orthodox Catholic thing going on with witches.
Witches are still a thing here too, but they're just all on TikTok.
Yeah, with their wizardry. But you know, you got to think about, like, what a time to be alive to still have faith in monsters existing. You know, something you can point your fear toward.
Yeah.
We had spoken briefly on the history of horror movies. All these guys coming back from the war, all, you know, fucked up looking, half a face, no legs, one arm, looking like monsters, freaks.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, those are the object of fear. It's scary to see a man with no face. It's scary to see midgets. Like, you can't trust them people. This is all, let me say this is all backed by the Something Good Network. I'm a representative. And this is something we wholeheartedly believe as a network. Alex can beat me out all he fucking wants to, but this is the express consent of the Something Good Network. And next, Hey Jude.
Jesus Christ.
But anyway, back to conspiracy.
Here, man.
I feel like that's going to be an episode in the future.
Yeah. But that's the imagination around the world of them saying, hey, you know how dinosaur bones have been dug up? I think we have a real goddamn dinosaur in Scotland.
So paleontology starts kind of becoming a thing around this time, late 1800s?
The mid to late 1800s.
Okay.
So once the expansion of Western culture goes all the way to California, and the United States really sets itself up by 1865, right after the Civil War,
right,
and into the 1880s, there's a big push for science. Now, granted, science is still somewhat religious based, you know, because we're still getting a lot of stuff from Germany, where they had the theater surgeries. You know, everyone's in a theater watching some dude getting hacked open.
Sounds awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty fucking metal, right?
Yeah.
Hey, what are you doing this weekend? Oh, I'm going to go see a surgery.
Yeah. This dude's got
Pretty
schizophrenia.
metal.
They said they could, you know, get the ghosts out of him by breaking his arms or some shit.
Because science.
Yeah. And like you got a lot of pseudoscience that become mainstay science. Like, oh hey, here's this special drink I made to make your wife not be such a bitch, and it's all it is morphine and cocaine.
Yeah.
and a fucking dildo. That's all it is. That's all it is. Like it's this pseudoscience that we use later on as basis of real science. Like, okay, we want to get rid of pain, we take morphine or morphine-based objects. If we want to move faster or be more attentive, we would take a upper, like cocaine.
Yeah.
You know, dildos are still a thing, right? So, I've seen some though. Jesus Christ, monsters. It's Loch Ness. This one's called the Loch Ness.
This one's called yes. Come here, Nessie.
You gotta put it in water first. It's like one of those magic
grows.
growth. It's one of those like pills you stick in the fucking like sponges.
No, man, the Nessie dildo is a conspiracy. It ain't real.
I guarantee we could find a Nessie dildo on the internet.
Pull that up.
Pull it up.
It's called Bad Dragon.
It's called Bad Dragon. Anyway, while Cap's search history goes to shit. But
oh God. Nope, not doing it.
Come on.
No. For those listening, do not Google Nessie dildo.
Okay, well, they're listening. They ain't looking. Let me see.
Meanwhile, all the podcasts have been shut off across. Click. Nasty. So I have a question for y'all. What do y'all think on the level of disbelief about Nessie? Do you guys believe that at some point this was real, or do you believe it's never been real? Because I would like to, this is a gauge I would like to get from some people, like we did with Bigfoot and Sasquatch.
Now, when the first thought that came to my head, as far as like somebody's perception of what they saw and what it could possibly mean, my first, because I haven't looked at the photo in a while, so my until like the last few minutes when we've been talking about Loch Ness Monster and all that, my first thought was that it may have been just a sea creature like a snake or something like that in the water that they missed.
Giant sea snake.
Yeah, I know it's a bit. Looking at the photo, it doesn't make a lot of sense now.
In Brazil grabbed an anaconda.
Yeah, seriously.
God, what a prick!
Somehow survived the winter.
But yeah, looking at it now, it's like not plausible that it was like a creature of any kind, whether it was like a fish or anything like that.
How far back does the story really go?
Okay, so if you want to go by just writings about the creature, it goes back to the year 565.
Fuck.
So, but all right, so like that's 565 AD. So like we're talking about 1,500 years.
Yeah.
Give or take between 14 and 1,500 years of lore.
Mm-hmm.
Christianity has been around for 2,000, and there's a lot of wild shit in that book too. You know what I'm saying?
But yeah, the human imagination just wants answers to things that they see and don't understand either.
Yeah, but what is the probability that some creature was able to survive that long?
I mean,
if not only one, we got sharks and fucking
sharks and
alligators.
I was going to say, and you have that argument too of like reptilian creatures that have been around for millions of years that have outlasted dinosaurs.
Well, he brings up a good point about that. Animals go extinct all the time. In our lifetime, there's probably been thousands that have just poof gone.
Mostly like insects and maybe birds or something like that, though, right?
But they're not real, Cap. What the fuck? God damn it! We just had a discussion.
Just derailed the whole fucking conversation. But it isn't.
That guy lied to the New York Times. He got in contact with Big Bird, man. Fucking
Big Bird.
Big Bird from Sesame Street.
No, Big Bird.
Oh, yeah,
like Big Tobacco.
It's just Big Bird in a fucking suit, just kind of like...
That's a prototype, man.
He's just like, yeah, we need to talk. And he talks like that, too.
We need to talk.
Yeah, he just gives off that Bing Rames voice all of a sudden after he teaches kids their ABCs.
Motherfucker.
Take you into a room with no windows.
God damn, welcome to Big Bird's touchy basement. God damn, that took a turn, didn't it? Anyway.
I was talking about Cap, not the children. God damn it.
Anyway, so Mikey, brings up a good aspect of it is there are creatures that have died off that make the imagination go crazy, kind of like the Tasmanian tiger.
Right.
Its mouth opens.
Wait, what?
The Tasmanian tiger?
I haven't heard of this.
I'll show you a picture of it.
It looks kind of like a cross between a dog and a wild cat.
I think
That's real.
Yeah, it's a real animal. It's dead now.
I think it's been around, or it died in like the 20s or 30s. Like the last one did.
They had a video of the last one before it died.
I'm kind of glad it did. What the fuck
Look
is
at
that?
Look at this. Look at his jaws right here.
Jesus.
I know listeners are going like, what the fuck? Google a Tasmanian tiger, listeners.
We're going to start doing this as a video podcast.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
really.
last one is just on some
Buy a
rich guy's
65-inch
floor.
television, get us a big
Just
table.
and stuff.
But no, so like the weird thing about that animal is it can open its mouth at 180 degrees.
And it was like it was a marsupial too, wasn't it?
Yes. So
So did it lay eggs?
no.
No, those are what are echidnas and platypuses.
Birds. But anyway,
I got to find out now.
you take a weird animal, that you like that, and now you have a story of a weird fox creature that lives in the woods. Now imagine if it was hairless. Let's say it had like mange or something, and it looked a little bit, skulked around kind of slow. Its eyes are red when the light hits it. Now you have something that could be construed as a chupacabra or a New Jersey devil. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Now, I believe, when we talk about dinosaurs, we're talking about millions and millions of years ago, a creature that died. Now, I do believe it is a creature of some kind that went extinct a long fucking time ago. But the problem with this in particular cryptid, it being a plesiosaur, just like Ogopogo, which is another.
Again, there's
version.
like a lot of versions of like a plesiosaur
Yes.
creature.
Because when you look at a plesiosaur, like if you actually look at one like in a drawing, they are scary as fuck to look at. They're like a combination between a snake, a whale, and a fucking alligator.
It's like or like I always see them as like brontosauruses with their necks.
Yeah.
Kind of like a snake head
sea
almost.
brontosaurus.
But with
Sea brontosaurus.
yeah,
with
sea
teeth.
brontosaurus. Yeah, with
Lapras.
teeth and flippers and shit.
Yeah, like a Lapras. Yeah, Pokemon. Yeah, the Pokemon. Lapras. Except without that goofy fucking smile on his face. More of a murderous look on his face.
Yeah.
Teaching me to swim, motherfucker.
I want to say plesiosaurs were like came from like the some of the earlier periods of like reptile dinosaur
Yeah,
existence.
so when Satan came and put the dinosaur bones down, no, they would find these intact in places like Death Valley, Montana, Wyoming, where a great ocean was once it existed.
Yeah.
And that's where you find a lot of crustacean artifacts. Which is fascinating to think that at some point, the middle of the United States up toward Canada down to Mexico was an ocean.
Right.
You know.
This is as continents are splitting up and all that
Yeah.
too.
And then you have, people fucking with bones, making their own kind of thing with them. Because like, there's only one intact skeleton of a T-Rex, I believe,
Yeah.
and only one intact skeleton of a Triceratops, maybe.
There's just not that many intact skeletons. Period.
No, because think about it. If those animals died off, and we're looking at hundreds of years of dirt and sediment on top, hundreds of years ago, those skeletons were still kind of could be fucking seen. So guess what? Our kind probably used them as weapons,
Yep.
or some weird fucking thing to worship something.
Yeah,
they
or-
probably this is a good example of could the finding of dinosaur bones be evidence of why people thought dragons existed?
Right.
So you find the head of a fucking T-Rex out of the mud,
A reptilian creature.
and it's pre-medieval times. You're like, oh shit, Jode, look at this fucking thing.
Right.
Oh my god, that must have been a terrible fucking animal. Can you imagine? Then the imagination runs wild. Oh no, I bet it flew. I bet it breathed fire and shit. I bet it was magical. I bet it was Satan.
I bet it had a lot of gold for no reason.
And then somebody's just finding pterodactyl bone wings and
Yeah.
stuff like that, and just like building fucking transformer fucking toys out of them.
But with Nessie, the cool thing about the story of Nessie is it's still active today, much like a lot of the cryptids we talk about. And we know there is no evidence that supports the existence of Nessie.
And it's if it was the lure is as old as you were telling us, shouldn't the thing have been dead for like hundreds of years at this point?
Yeah, so it goes to could have been.
Especially if it's a lone creature too.
So let's talk about the geography for a second. Scotland is the Highlands of the British Isles, right? But at some point it was underwater.
Yeah.
At some point, what's to say that Nessie was in the when a high tide came in, they came into the fresh water, ate some fish, and left one behind, or a couple got left behind. That happens to sharks. That happens to whales, you know. So that far back, I could imagine they found the remains of an old creature, and they told stories that went down the line of a giant sea creature that got stuck in the lake, and then eventually, you know, in the year 565, you know, the 500s, the 600s, the 700s, you know, the Earth experienced massive volcanoes that no one had observance of. You know, cold fronts come in across Europe and, you know, Asia. So what's to say, you know, the ice caps just reformed a little bit more and the water rescinded? You know,
Right.
I totally believe there is something deep down in the ocean that we don't want to fucking find.
Well, that's because, well,
And I bet it's something onto the level of what Nessie was probably, you know, thought of being. You know, we don't know what's down there. That's what creates the conspiracy to begin with. We don't know. And we've seen fish from deep
I was going to say,
in the ocean.
I've watched a zillion documentaries on, you know, the deep ocean, and there's
Like an anglerfish.
Yeah.
Have you ever looked at an anglerfish? That's the ugliest goddamn thing you've ever seen in your fucking life.
but there's like millions of creatures that are, you know, that far deep that we don't know about.
Yeah, like a
potentially.
jackal shark. You ever seen those nasty looking motherfuckers?
Fucking goblin sharks.
Goblin sharks, yeah.
I'm gonna look those up. I don't know about the jackal shark.
Or a goblin shark, sorry. It's an ugly fucking animal.
I'll probably look up a jackal shark anyway, just to see what comes up.
It'd probably be.
It's just porn again.
Yeah. Everybody knows you're like 3 clicks away from porn.
Always.
Any given time on the internet.
Yep. And 4 clicks away from actually purchasing it. Like an idiot. But, you know, going down, you know, the story of Loch Ness, you know, this was a spiteful story that we know of in the 30s.
So how did it become like what led to the
All right, person A got annoyed that person B kept talking about this fucking animal in the lake. So person A went back to the lake, took a log, strapped some shit together, threw it back in the fucking lake, waited a minute, and then took a photo and been like, "Hey man, you were right," and made him look like a total fucking dumbass.
So here
It's the ultimate. It's believing someone out of spite just to fuck with them, and I think that's one of the most elaborate fucking ways to get one over on somebody.
just like, oh yeah, oh it's real. It's like, yeah, here you go. What do you think?
It reminds me.
What do you think?
Reminds me of in the movie Ted, or not Ted, but the other guys with Will Ferrell, and Mark
Yeah.
Wahlberg. It's like, oh yeah, Terry, he learned how to play the harp to make fun of the gay kid up the street. And it's like, what? You did it ironically.
Now went out of his way too. That's just a funny story that, you know, a lot of people don't talk about. That's the first time I've heard that story.
Yeah. So,
Granted, this also is, you know, cryptid, you know,
so
lore and stuff like that. And like I was saying earlier, there's stuff like that. If it sounds that outlandish, I just usually ignore it.
So, and you got to remember, like, so while this happens, in the entire, you know, the rest of the 30s up to the 50s, the town acknowledges his existence.
Yeah.
And they are offering prizes to whoever can find it the fuck out.
Oh, it's just a big, you know, tourist attraction
and
too,
around,
right?
And around 1938, 39 is when the town leadership, you know, the sheriff and, you know, mayor or whatever, acknowledge its existence and say beyond a reasonable doubt that Nessie is real. With no physical evidence.
But that comes to the point of, you know, a community coming together around a
Yes.
certain thing and how, you know,
That's why he got reelected.
yeah, probably because, you know, stuff like that brings people into town and generating a lot
Point
of,
Pleasant, Point Pleasant, West Virginia. They have Mothman.
yeah.
The home of Mothman. They have a statue of a Mothman creature.
I'm sure it's similar with Nessie in Scotland, right?
Yeah. So they have these little.
There's a gift shop.
Yeah.
Yeah, has to be.
And the Flatwoods Monster, you know, the aliens, you know, going back to what you were saying before the podcast, that's another cryptid. Was 2 aliens came down and caught two kids, you know, 2 young teenagers out in the woods and scared the shit out of them, and they ran away.
But that's stuff like that is big business in these small towns.
Yeah, because that makes it a tourist trap.
Yep. Exactly.
And it's a very elaborate one. You got to think about, because in Europe, you got to be really clever with that kind of shit, because you got people that have got history all the way back to, you know, the year, you know, 200. You know, back when the Romans started killing motherfuckers in the British Isles.
yeah, people forget
You know,
how young America is relatively.
yeah. So, with that being said, we know Nessie doesn't exist. Now, I thought about doing this with the other ones we're going to do. From a scale of 1 to 10, how bad is this conspiracy? Not in functionality, more of how bad is this to a society to still have a creature?
Well, with every 10 being to be
10
this
being
is a cancer to our
like it's detrimental for progress of the town. Like, it's a joke. Like, we all see Nessie more of as a joke than anything.
right. And so where's that line between going to see something like this for fun in Scotland or something like that?
Or we could change it up a little bit easier on a scale from 1 to 10. How believable is the story of Loch Ness?
I think 1 being totally believable and 10 being like absolutely ludicrous.
Yeah.
Yeah, just absolutely ludicrous. Obviously.
Oh yeah.
I know. Where's
Is that what you think?
I like how this is. There's like hardly any debate with this, but present your argument, Mikey.
What, you giving it a 10?
Out of sheer
10 being
ludicrous.
like never existed. These people are stupid rubes.
Yeah, more along those. Not. Yeah, in a harsh way. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so you're giving it a what?
I'm giving it a 10. Yeah.
A 10, straight up. So, along with Israel, he also hates Scotland. Hey, when these mics come off, man, I've heard what you said.
You kind of explained. It's like you explained away basically everything about the monster too, and I'm sitting here just kind of. But that's that's how
the great
conspiracy
thing.
works,
Well,
right?
That's the great thing about any story. We can explain the reasonings away, no matter what.
And
But it still comes down to belief. That's what keeps cryptids alive and conspiracies alive. I believe the Earth is flat. We have proof. I could drag your soulless being into fucking space and show you orbit, and you still believe the Earth is flat. That's it's a faith almost.
Yeah,
conspiracy is a faith. Now, well, you, Mikey, how do you feel about Loch Ness?
I'm gonna say on a detriment to society scale, I'll give it a 0.
A 0.
I don't think anyone.
A
fun 0. Like, it's not
like,
hurting
it's
anybody.
It's not hurting anybody. The town's having a
The
good time.
town's fine. They're probably not exporting much anyways, so they gotta take what they can fucking take.
Take what they can fucking get.
Well, yeah, that's kind of like what I was saying earlier. So it's like I don't think you don't see it.
You've already called this whole town a heartless bunch of
You
rubes.
called them a bunch of fucking dummies.
But you don't see it, permeating into culture, like Bigfoot does.
Yeah. So
Plausibility, I'm gonna give it a solid 6.
6. Okay. So it is plausible that a dinosaur-like creature,
probably not in the 1930s, but at some point
a dinosaur-like creature was seen by man,
or they found the remains.
Okay.
I never thought about it that way until you brought it up, but
because
and then they formulate the story and go from there. It makes sense.
And that goes with like a lot of other things. We find proof of something that did exist, but we're not quite sure what.
Right.
For years, people didn't believe there were cities in the Amazon.
Right.
Until we found Machu Picchu.
Yep.
And all these other, scaled societies.
Or even more recent, we're finding that fucking Bigfoot skeleton. What is it? Australopithecus?
Oh,
shit like that.
What was the name of the... we were talking about this on the last episode, too.
Yes,
There's a
we're talking about the missing link
Yeah.
between Neanderthals and where it splits into the great apes.
Yeah. And there's a name for it. It's like some generic, person's name or whatever, but I can't think of what it is.
Henry and the Hendersons?
Yes.
Yeah. That was that's where we dove last time. We talked about Sasquatch, Bigfoot, and the Yeti. Yeah. How they all cross a cultural line. Much like, Loch Ness. It's a dinosaur-type creature. You can argue a dragon of some kind. A water-type dragon.
Just like Lapras.
Yeah, just like a Lapras. Yeah. None of that Dratini bullshit either. Going back a long ways with that one. The original 150 on that one. Remember that, kids? Keep those cards.
Keep those cards. Yeah, no shit.
You can go to college or buy a house, or at least make a month payment. But going into the history real quick of the Loch Ness Monster that compounds itself over the decades. So, along with the Jews, the Gypsies, the gays, the Nazis really hated cryptids too. They really fucking hated stories about cryptids.
I'd argue they had their own fan fiction and cryptids and all that shit too. With like
Jews are not a
Parsifal and all
cryptid.
that. I'm talking about like all the Madame Blavatsky shit that they were into.
The witchcrafts and the magic and shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, they just really hated fucking monster stories because they wanted to be the real monster.
I mean, yeah, but there's a whole like lore of like all that Parsifal, like there's like an archangel lore, all that kind of stuff too that they lashed on to.
So with
I know, I hear you snickering back there, Alex. It's true.
I've been to church.
Hey, there are 4 of us, and I am a ordained minister. This could be tax free in a motherfucking minute.
Lucy was the name of the Homo sapien creature that they are kind of like figuring out as a potential missing link.
Yeah. But with the Nazis hating cryptids.
Meanwhile, back to the Nazis.
Yeah, that's what this all goes. Every podcast is going to end with this. Back to the Nazis.
So you like it's hand in hand with conspiracy.
Yeah. Like it is the triangle of conspiracies, man. Yeah. Like up here is the worst of the worst. Down here is Free Britney. You know, like.
Anyway, continue.
But somewhere the Jews are there. But no, the Nazis they had this weird belief that cryptids were a detriment to society. That the belief in monsters and not men were fucking up people's purview of evil.
Were there German monster cryptid things that they were like
so there are
that were legitimately scared of?
It's not so much cryptid as it is a cultural creature of comfort, such as Krampus.
Okay.
Austria, Hungary, Eastern Germany, Poland, Southern Poland, the main Eastern European countries, like Ukraine, Belarus and stuff like that. They believe, so Santa Claus, the reason for the season, is a saint who we know the story of Santa Claus as he lives in the fucking north. He has a slave organization of an entire species that makes toys for little boys and girls in Europe.
And has magic and taught and was able to tame reindeer. Back to our conversations of men.
Yes, yeah, he predated
taming wild beasts.
He predated reindeer into beasts of burden.
Yes,
and is a great story about bullying and how if you keep bullying this one motherfucker, he's going to show up with what looks like a weapon. Big red nose.
Just handing out guns to little kids, on
birth of
Christmas.
capitalism.
Yeah. So before capitalism decided to turn Santa Claus into a martyr for new shit to have every year, there is the story of Krampus, which tells, because it is December, we are right around the corner from Christmas time, and I think this is going to fit perfectly because Krampus, to me, is one of the most craziest stories people have and connected to Christianity. Now, the Bible is full. The Bible is full of some fantastical stories about people seeing angels that are like a ball of eyes with a ring of fire. They can't understand what it's saying because they're too fucking scared of what they're looking at. God made bears eat kids in the Old Testament. You couldn't eat shrimp. You couldn't have long hair. You couldn't have tattoos.
I was going to
say... a fucking no-go.
I was going to say, I feel like Krampus needs to be its own episode, too.
Yeah. But
let's give like a brief synopsis.
So, a brief synopsis. Krampus... is a demon-like character who punishes bad kids. He does not give them coal. He puts them in a sack, beats them with a stick, and flies away with these kids and forces them to make toys for the good boys and girls.
And on top of that, were werewolves and vampire stories kind of being a little bit more prevalent in the European...
Oh, yeah, that's where it all comes from.
That's what I figured, yeah.
Vampires, werewolves... the French, when they crossed the
French?
Well, no. The French, these weak-willed people.
There's a Frenchman in my closet.
I fart in your general direction.
We'll leave a baguette by the bed. He'll leave you alone. A baguette and a bottle of wine keeps the fucking French away.
Just hear him in the background.
But when the French came over toward North America, that's where we get the Catholic and the native mixture, which creates zombies.
Okay.
resurrections from the dead. That's when we get Creole religion, you know, all that whole hoodoo, voodoo bullshit, along with everything else. And Krampus, though, is kind of a positive in the way we look at it, because he's getting rid of the bad kids. He's getting rid of kids who are spoiled, who are assholes, who are there's general pricks, and forcing them to do things for good kids. Now, granted, you know, it is all, you know.
I mean, it's kind of like, you know, it's like the Santa Claus thing too, where it's like, if you're a good boy or girl, you'll get a present this year, you know.
Yeah. Now it's, if you're good, I'll get you a PlayStation 5. If
Right.
you're bad,
I'll put you in a bag and kick your ass.
God, don't you miss this country? God, what a time to be alive.
But yeah, I'm sure thoughts like that, you know, dinosaur or reptilian creatures were, you know.
Well, here's a good question. Y'all believe in dinosaurs, right?
Of course.
Yeah.
Sinners. I am doing a podcast with non-Christians who believe in the devil. Now, I got a funny story about that real quick. I think I told you, my family had started going to a church, and the preacher was a real nice fellow, real great guy. Ran a pretty good church, you know, from my standpoint, because a lot of them are shit.
Right.
Now, he wasn't some Joel Osteen motherfucker saying put $1 in the box for Jesus. Okay, but him and my dad went fishing one day, and I had said to my dad, I said, hey, you know, we've gone here a few times. They don't believe in dinosaurs. And my dad kind of just gave me the side-eyed look like, what? I'm like, yeah, so I don't know about y'all, but when I was in high school, there was history, and then there was Christian history.
No, we didn't have that.
We did. Our backwoods county had it. And that's what they were told in the history class, was dinosaur bones were put here to confuse the Christian mind by Satan.
And that didn't come up in like on my radar. Like that idea didn't come until like later in life.
Yeah. So I'm 17 years old hearing this shit. I tell my dad, a grown-ass man who believed in dinosaurs, went to church all his life. He had never heard that in the 60s, 70s when he was a kid.
How'd you hear it?
I heard it by passing.
Oh, in school, yeah.
I heard it in passing because the guy wanted me to go to that class.
Yeah.
He's like, hey, you know a lot about this stuff. You would do well in this class. And I was like, I know a lot about bullshit, too.
Yes.
So, of course, I could bullshit my way about a course about Christian history. It's not that hard. All right? At the end of the day, Jesus did it is the answer, okay? I could write that in on every question. So, I tell him this. And my dad's like, okay, whatever. They go fish. My dad comes back. I'm like, hey, how was it? He's like, he doesn't believe dinosaurs existed. I'm like, I fucking told you. And I'm like, did it get weird? He's like, yep. It got real fucking weird after he said that. And because my dad, you know, is we're a lot alike. You know, if I show you something that existed, you know, you can't just pass it off as some weird voodoo bullshit. Like, oh no, it's there to confuse you. You know,
They're in your head, man.
they're in your head. You know, like birds.
Yeah.
They're in your goddamn head. It's all collective hallucination, man. There's actually drones. But that's the funny story about, you know, a conspiracy, but a conspiracy based on religion.
Yeah.
That's based in religion. And you got to think about Europe as a whole, because you're talking about a whole continent that went through a medieval, a Renaissance, plague, Crusades, multiple empires rising and falling, but this one story staying the whole time.
Because they got to have something fun to latch on
Yeah,
to.
so it doesn't matter if you're Catholic, Protestant, white, Scottish, Irish, Eastern European, Western European, Northern European. It doesn't matter. That story's still there. You know, Scotland has been in control by like 5 different nations at multiple fucking times.
Yeah.
So
So the story's more credible than any of them.
yeah, so you have...
I mean,
well, you have that belief. So now we have to discern. It's not like Bigfoot, where Bigfoot changes from territory. So you got the Pacific Northwest,
And then the
which is
Yetis.
Bigfoot, and then you have Russia, the Mongolians, and Indians who believe in the Yeti, and then the Pali Mountains all the way to the Caucasus Mountains.
So on that front, what about what were the other plesiosaur monsters, and what were their
Okay, so there are multiple ones. I'm not as familiar with the other ones just because, but there is Ogopogo.
Yeah.
We can go over that real quick. Ogopogo is a lake monster in Canada. Here's a fun monument. Looks like a fucking playground monument. But Ogopogo is in Okanagan Lake in British Columbia. So it is a lake monster.
Yeah.
Now we get a lot of lake monsters. Like
I was going to say that they're all lakes. There's no ocean, reptilians or anything like that.
Well, there were. Oh, here's the fun thing. You look at an old map that's made to traverse the oceans, and what do you see in like the bottom corner, the top corner? What do you see?
The guardians of the fucking wall, man, because the Earth is flat.
Other than that, you see a drawing of a monster, of a large serpent, a water serpent.
Yeah.
You see it drawn on there. Hey, that's where monsters dwell. We don't go that route. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, there are monsters, but you know.
But you know what I'm saying? Like, there was this high belief that, hey, the giant snake creature could come out of the goddamn ocean and snatch our lives.
Don't go in the fucking ocean.
Yeah, don't go in the fucking ocean. Just like Steven Spielberg said with Jaws.
Basically.
Don't go in the goddamn water. You're not going to want to do that. There's a giant shark that's smarter than you.
See, we've also got not only Nessie, but Bessie.
Bessie. That's another popular one.
Very
then you
original.
have Kushi. Like Japan has a lot. Because...
Interesting.
Ever since Fukushima.
Yeah. It was before the radiation and the earthquake.
It's like Japan's just running wild with all kinds of reptilian creatures.
And you have just Pogo out of Lake Manitoba in Canada.
My favorite, Champ.
Out of Lake Champlain.
Yep.
Yeah. Champ is a fun one.
That's a Canadian one, if I'm not mistaken.
North American, yeah. But there's actually, like, if you look at the photo of Champ, it's a drawing, and it just looks kind of terrible.
Yeah. Oh, God. Let's just take the Loch Ness Monster photo and reverse the head.
Have a kid draw it.
Basically.
Yeah. But the thing about Champ is that goes back to the Native Americans believing of a giant serpent-like creature that lived in a lake, and a lot of our Western society cryptids come from Native Americans.
Yeah. Bigfoot kind of did.
Yes.
A lot of ways.
Quite a few Western Native American cultures believed in a monster bipedal creature that roamed in the forests of the Midwest and the Northeast.
Yeah.
But with all the lakes that are sprouted across the United States, you're coming across a body of water, you're nomadic people, and let's say this is the first time you come across it, you're gonna be wary a little bit.
It big. I said it big.
Yeah.
There's also giant, probably like just big fish in the water too.
Yeah,
and,
like gar.
Probably.
Yeah, like gar and stuff.
Like, you ever seen a gar? Those things are fucking nasty looking.
Giant catfish, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Like, not long ago, there was that video of that dude who casted his line out, and then it looked like a snake almost, but it was a giant catfish. And you're like, God damn.
Yeah, it's about as big as the fucking boat.
God damn, nuke these fucking water and just kill these fucking things, these monsters. And like, even when you see stuff like noodling and stuff, where you see people just ballsy sticking their goddamn hand in the water and picking up a fucking catfish, and it's just like a 40-pound fucking monster. Can you imagine back in the day with that thing brushing up against you in the fucking water?
Yeah.
Like shallow water too.
Yeah, but like it's just the idea of like, we could see a snake, we know what they are, but let's say there's one bigger, scarier, especially in Central America, because we don't know the migration of anacondas in the time before the white man came.
Yeah, or as like the continents are still splitting up.
Yeah.
How did the snakes get there in the first place?
But we have no history of these people, of especially Central America and Mexico, of, hey, did they have giant serpents? What about the Gulf? What the fuck is in the Gulf? We don't know what's down there. That's about it.
Yeah.
But giant shrimp bugs, we see those. There's something down there that's eating all those goddamn things. There's something down there. And that's the crux of every conspiracy. There's something
and we don't
out
know
there,
there.
down there, up there, over there, and it's all variations of that. And that's the whole conspiracy.
I will never understand, but I want it to make sense.
Yes, then you explain it to them where it makes sense, and they're just like, "You're part of big fucking serpent, man."
The birds got to him.
The birds got to him. They did, man. And that poor guy had to abandon his conspiracy because Big Bird got to him. Yeah. Now I will say, this is a cryptid podcast. It's also part conspiracy.
Yeah.
Mikey, since you are a guest, is there a conspiracy you would like to bring up real quick
Conspiracy?
that you think of?
The trash man.
The trash man conspiracy.
Oh yes, the Sunday trash man.
Yes.
It doesn't exist. It's not.
He
the
doesn't
trash
exist. We heard him.
Man. Well, I saw him.
Yeah.
We did not. That's another crux of it. We did not. You saw it. We heard a car go by.
Oh, shit.
Might have been a big truck.
No, it's on record where I forget who breaks it up. It's like, I think that's the garbage man, and then Mikey says out loud, "That ain't no trash man. It's Sunday."
Man. It's Sunday.
Yeah.
Trash man don't come on Sunday.
Yeah. Who was it? Who was it?
It was
Some
a
guy
garbage
named-
man.
It was the garbage
Yeah,
man.
it was a trash truck.
It was some guy named Jim Bob who can only get around in his fucking garbage truck on a fucking
He's
Sunday.
using his work truck with his. He's got to take his food stamps down to the 7-Eleven.
God damn. God damn. Y'all bigoted motherfuckers against the trash man. Like, you calling him poor and shit.
Again, it's just some guy named Jim Bob. He was
Yeah.
just trying to get by on a Sunday. His
I'm
car's in
sorry.
the shop.
I'm sorry,
sure trash
Dale.
men
He's
make
getting his fucking brakes fixed, man.
Yeah, I heard your little Dale reference. Yeah, Hank.
Hey, trash man's here on a Sunday.
Is that right? The King of the Hill conspiracy. Those are my favorite.
No, I still think that should be a movie, like a garbage man that
Who comes on Sundays?
Yeah, comes on
Just
Sundays,
only on
but
Sundays.
Fucks your wife.
Kicks your dog.
so now it's not a horror movie. Now it's just a porno series.
Yep.
Trash Man Part 8.
Trash man cometh.
Trash Man
Spelled the fun way.
all anal final chapter.
Revenge of the shit. I know what you were referencing to.
Yes.
I don't have anything to bring up. I don't dive that deep into it, honestly.
Is there any
But-
other cryptid type creatures you know of that?
I've looked into the Jersey Devil a little bit.
Okay,
That's
All
a
right.
fun one.
I'd like to bring you back for that one.
All right. Let's see. A bunch of different alien stories.
Okay, we could do a special about that.
I was gonna say
We could do multiple episodes about those. There's so fucking many.
Yeah.
There's like the Anunnaki, and then you've got Roswell, and then you got
The Lights of Phoenix.
Lights of Phoenix. Yeah, that's the Lights in the Sky story, right?
Yeah.
Is that
Yeah.
in
Blair
Phoenix?
Witch Project.
Yeah.
Giant triangle.
The
Even
Blair
more
Witch
modern
Project.
stuff.
The Blair Witch Project. The pyramids. What else? Oh, the house they found on the moon recently, thanks to China.
No shit.
Yeah.
Like really?
Yeah, we were watching
Like
the whole thing.
really, really fucking stupid.
But we could probably do an hour-long podcast on it.
Yeah, they found they said they found a house. I'm giving it time because there is an asteroid coming, so I'm just giving it time. So I can stock up on butter and shotgun shells.
Yeah, really.
Are you guys doing just cryptids?
No,
Are we doing
it's-
all conspiracies?
Yeah, it's,
Yeah, pretty much.
But we
Cryptids are a good starting point as far as getting conspiracy conversations going because
God, you
that's
don't
kind
wanna
of
get too political too fast.
But cryptids are a great base for where all conspiracy stands. It's the thought of the unknown, and then a personification of that.
Right.
Like, oh fuck, somebody took my brother out in the woods. I saw lights in the sky. No, that was a helicopter looking for your brother, part of a search party. You dumb fuck. Because you guys have been out there on peyote for fucking weeks days at a time. You were hanging out with the fucking Anunnaki, which are just Cherokee Indians. Who just wanted to do some fucking peyote with you.
But
This weed stuff's kind of funny, man. That's not weed stuff, brother.
That's a fucking Judy fly. Oh shit.
But that all kind of goes hand in hand with like a lot of quote unquote Christian science and stuff like that too, with the Nephilim and all this. And,
Yeah, the giants.
Yeah, the giants, exactly.
Yeah. I would love to do a podcast of just deconstructing a whole religion in front of somebody and watch them lose faith, but I don't have the time or money.
We tried to do that with Tyler with the Anunnaki. All I did was get pissed.
Yeah, well, I'm not. Oh boy, I haven't get punched in the head much enough times to believe that alien Indians are giving me drugs and are really controlling the fucking world. You know what I'm saying?
What are your final thoughts on the Loch Ness Monster and just plesiosaur, reptilian, and cryptids in general?
I think it is a great faith-based story to crux up a whole town on and just to unify enough to make it feasible. Because we know it's bullshit. We know there's no proof other than a shady fucking photograph. But it keeps that town going. Yeah. And that is perfectly fine with me. Cryptids, I love cryptids because it's an explanation of something until we find the truth. Right. And that's with all conspiracy. But once we find the truth, we can look back on it and just revel. Yeah. In what we've seen and just be amazed about what the stuff we came up with just based on the human condition. Exactly. And that's kind of the fun part of having these conversations is kind of looking back and seeing, what the context of the culture is surrounding the origins of these of this lore. Yeah. And we're going to keep going. We have another guest lined up, and thanks, Mikey, for speaking about Nessie. Yeah, totally. Yeah, you're not high at all. About birds, about trash men. We solved a lot of. We got a lot of answers out of this podcast. Yeah, and more questions.
What's your rating? More questions. What's your rating on plausibility?
Plausibility, 4. 4. I believe there's probably at one time something in there. It could have been a gar. Yeah. Of some kind, a giant. It could have been a fucking razorback turtle for all I know. Razorback turtle. Yeah, so one of those alligator snapping turtles or something like that. Yeah, that should be a tag for this podcast where you leave with a few answers but a lot more questions. That's a great thing about conspiracy. That's all it is. Yep. Every conspiracy, you find an answer, you find 10 more questions. Yep. It's like watching a Spider-Man movie. It's like Scientology. 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 Oh man, we're gonna do 2 episodes about that. Well, I've been Chris. This is Cap. Thank you guys for listening, and we'll keep going, trucking along with these Cryptid podcasts. Thanks again, Mikey, for joining on.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah. Glad to have you.